Hey guys, welcome to the Next Level Mamas podcast. I'm here to encourage and empower you to create a life that you love as you head toward your own next level. Now, let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to Next Level Mamas. Now, today's podcast is actually going to be our first goal evaluation for 2023. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, I just am getting started. Why is there a goal evaluation already? What does a goal evaluation look like? That's what we're going to go through. It looks like this. I'm going to shout out a couple of my goals and another goal that is a typical New Year goal for a lot of people that I know. The first one, let's look at my running goal. Now, I've decided I want to run once a day, 1 mile every day for the year. Now that one is a simple evaluation, right? I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it. This is not a direct pass or fail because it's only January and I am looking at the entire year for success on all of my goals. But this one for me is actually a streak goal, so I am going for 100%. I am running despite all the excuses that my brain might come up with. But let's say, for instance, maybe I don't run one day. Now, I'm going to look at that a little differently now with you. If I'm reviewing and maybe I've made it where I want to run a mile a day and I skipped a day. What now? Now, I've also made a very strict rule that I'm not going to speak unkindly to myself because that's what most people do. They start bashing themselves and that road will only lead to quitting. Maybe not immediately, but really for sure eventually you will quit if you're being mean to yourself. So I've made that a rule. I'm not going to bash myself. I'm not going to be mean. Instead, I have a friendly reminder to myself that I am my own human experiment. And I welcome you to be your own experiment also. We're not going for perfection. We're going for progress. Now, instead of bashing myself, I want to put on my curiosity hat and ask some really good questions. Now, if I didn't run yesterday, what was my reason? I'm going to look at what actually took place. I'm looking for facts. Was I ill? Was I maybe in some pain? Those are places where I can actually be okay. Like that's a free pass for me. Did I run out of time? Now that one doesn't get a free pass. That one gets another question. What would, if I ran out of with what would have been a better way to get my run in? Like if I could redo all of yesterday 100% with all new decisions, how would I do it differently? Would I run early in the morning instead of planning it for the afternoon? What else could I do? Could I have maybe called a friend for encouragement? You could actually, and I've done this before in the past, called and talked to a friend while running to take that edge off. Could I have pushed through and maybe run at 10 p.m. if that's what it took? Like I'm getting this run no matter what. The day is not going to run out. I'm going to get this run in. Would I have maybe I could have run while I was already at the gym right after my weightlifting instead of waiting till later in the afternoon to do the run? That is one thing that I could have done different. Could I have this is one thing I thought of, could go to 5 different people and ask for song suggestions and make a playlist and just shove myself out the door and have some unexpected new fun. Now that is one thing. I'm talking my run, it's a 1 mile run. Therefore, it's so simple that it's almost easier to do it than to skip it. It's one of those. It's 10 to 12 minutes tops. 5 songs is probably way more than enough than I would need. That is one idea that I could do. Just ask 5 different people for 5 different songs and just head out the door and just make it happen. When I look back at all those things that I could have done differently, it's really not from a place of, well, you should have done that. It's really from a place of learning. Each time I learn a new tool for my toolbox. Now, again, I'm going to ask myself, if I haven't already set up accountability, what would that look like? What could I do now? If I'm thinking, I'm not doing this on my own, how could I bring someone else in to make it where I'm more apt to do it? Like I said, I have a friend who I send a picture every day of my run, either the stats on the treadmill or a screenshot from the app, the Runkeeper app that I'm using. When it gets to that 1 mile, and believe me, I'm watching it. When it hits that 1 mile, I am screenshotting it. And then I'll keep on jogging a little while. I got to get myself back home if I'm running in the neighborhood. And some days I might want to run 5 or 6 miles. Lately, it's been more like 2 or 3. But I will screenshot that 1 mile so I know that I can send that to her and she sends me her, and I have that accountability. And so far, it's working for both of us. I know that there has been at least one time where she would have bailed out otherwise. And there's also been, for me, if it was just up to me, I would probably be like, oh, 99% of the year is good. I probably would have already let myself off the hook of one of these days. And it's only January 11th. So that tells you I'm not any more perfect than anyone else. And I have the same human brain. Now, do I need a friend for my wake up to my alarm goal? No, I've done really well on that. I've managed to do that on my own with my little glass rock jar that I talked to you guys about in the last few episodes. That has worked for me. I found something, and so I'm sticking to that. Another example of a goal for me is to start and complete my 2022 scrapbook digitally by March 31st. Now, that is a lofty goal. It's the whole year of 2022. Though the older I get, the less photos I take. So it's not as bad as it would have been if my kids were younger and we were doing all kinds of zoo trips and field trips and vacations. It's not near as many photos. So I know I can get it done by March 31st, but it's still a lofty goal. And it's also an easily procrastinated one because really, who cares except me? I don't have anyone to show up for. But knowing this, I actually set up a monthly crafting club where I can invite people, friends can come over to my house or just join on Zoom online with their own craft just for an accountability time, like from 6 to 8 p.m. on that second Tuesday. We are either coming to my house or getting on Zoom, and everybody's going to work on their craft because I am setting aside that time. And I know if somebody else is going to show up, then I'm definitely going to show up for myself. Now, I want you to know every excuse in the world came up when going into this day, which was yesterday, starting with my own mental health, coming off of a little detox experiment that I did last week, which is a whole nother story. Let's just say I was not myself. But the fog lifted now, but it was not pretty nor enjoyable. I normally would have just called it off because I was just like, I am not myself. Especially when I had the majority of the people were like, oh, I can't really come this time. I'm going to make sure I make it next time. So I had a lot of people bailing out and saying they weren't going to come. I told myself though, like, why did you start this group? You started this to show up for yourself. It doesn't matter if anyone joins me. I put the time, already put the schedule, working 2 hours for my scrapbook on my calendar. Now, I did actually have people join, and it made it all worthwhile, which thank you guys for your love and support. It was fun. I am looking forward to doing it every month this year. Now, if I hadn't followed through, if I decided last minute to stop and I hadn't followed through, then I would have analyzed, like, why not? What stopped me? And I would have listed all of my excuses. Like I said, it's not like I didn't have the time. It was on my calendar. So that excuse is just invalid. My husband, actually, he did ask me to do something with him, which is not normal. But if I had, normally, I probably maybe, if I didn't have this goal, would be like, oh, okay, I'll do my scrapbook later, which is why I needed to set up this craft club because I know I would put other people above myself for the most part, most times. Now, if I would have given in and done that, then I would have said, well, maybe next time I need to have clearer communication of my schedule and that my time, like I've set up this time, babe. It's non-negotiable, except in an emergency, obviously, but I would have maybe communicated better. With not a lot of people showing up, I can learn that I need to promote it more frequently. I need to tell more people about it more frequently so they can actually get it on their calendar because some people didn't even know about it. Now, One thing I did learn is that this sounds really silly and a little crazy, but I want to time the event around my housekeeper because I don't want to make, oh, my house isn't clean enough. I don't want to make that a stressor that would make me not want to invite people over. So I think I'm going to tweak the schedule a little bit because she comes every other Monday. And I would just rather not have to feel like I have to clean my house extra good. I mean, it's not that it's dirty all the time, but I've got dogs and, I've got stuff going on all the time. So I think that if I just had that taken off of my plate, then that would knock that excuse right out. And I think you guys would agree. You would do the same thing if it was an option. So I'm going to time it honestly around my housekeeper, so I don't have to work extra hard and clean the whole day up and make it all a stressful event for my scrapbooking. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a stress. Because remember, I'm looking at all of this from a viewpoint of how can I set myself up for success. It's often just a small adjustment to the plan. Like I said, I can just shift the day. Nobody's going to care. And it can go from difficult to really, really simple. Like I'm working on my scrapbook. You can come or not. It doesn't matter. My house is clean. I'm working on my scrapbook. It's a great time for all of us. Now, if you have a goal, I'm going to talk about another goal. This is not my goal because I already kind of do these things. But I know a lot of people who are like, this year, I'm going to change the way I eat. I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to have my food available and avoid all the confusion and decisions that might make a person slip up. Now, in order to do that goal, there are some things that you need to do to set yourself up for success because it's not an overnight success. You don't go from eating through the drive-thru every day to having your meals all prepped in your refrigerator ready for you the next week. It's a process and it takes some time to build momentum. It may only take you a few weeks. It may take you a couple months to really get in a groove, but it's going to begin with the same thing. Everybody's got to figure out how to get their food, their healthy food to eat. It's not farm to table, but you know what I mean? You've got to go to the grocery shopping or have it delivered. There are lots of options, but if you're going to have to do your grocery shopping, it's going to begin with setting up a grocery shopping day and time that actually works for you. Now, you may try, I'm going to go after work on this day, then that doesn't pan out. So okay, what's next? How could I do it? Could I go before work? Could I have some food delivered? There's lots of services that can have your groceries delivered or have it just easy to pick up and drive through on your way home. There's just so many ways to do the same thing as far as getting food you need to your house. Then the next step would be cooking it. If what you're doing now isn't working out easily, then what else could you do? Just ask your brain that question. Okay, what else could I do? How could I make this easier? How is this too difficult right now? How could I take the edge off? You could utilize a crock pot. Once you ask your brain will come up with all kinds of answers. Use an Instapot. You could have a meal prepping service cook most of your meals for you. That's an option that I know a lot of people use these days. The more simple that you can make that change, the more likely that you're going to adapt it and mold it more easily into your current lifestyle. It's got to mesh with your life, or it will be a fight every single day, every single week, every single month. You got to ease into that, and it's got to mesh with you. You can't mesh with it. Now, those were 3 examples. I want you to look at your goals and see where you are. And this would be a perfect time to tweak it because the key takeaway this week is, yes, it's an early check-in on goals because the more time slips away and you're not on track, the more likely you are to give up altogether. Most people ditch all their goals by Valentine's Day, and we're not going to be most people. Now, if you notice on day 13, that you still aren't pulling your plans together and taking action, or you've already given up maybe. Now you want to go into some questions just with curiosity. You're loving yourself. Nothing's gone wrong. You're figuring things out. You're doing hard things. You're doing new things. That's great. You're going to ask your brain, what ways could this be made easier? And then you're going to listen to what your brain comes up with. If you need to, you could use a lifeline, phone a friend. Now make sure it's a good friend who will help you to solve your dilemma and doesn't just help you accept the failure and like, it's okay, me too. That's not helpful. You don't need necessarily a cuddle and a warm blanket. You need a sound mind with some solid judgment. Now, for the tools that go along with this episode, visit my website, nextlevelmamas.com/podcast. Download the free resources. Then you can go through your goals and analyze what's going right, what's not quite there yet, and really get some insight into how you could tweak things to make them a little bit easier on yourself. It's not supposed to be difficult. It's a little bit of change, but you can do it. Now, if you want more personal help, you can contact me, direct message through social media, Next Level Mamas, Facebook or Instagram. I find often a person just needs a few really good life coaching sessions to jumpstart into that success plan. Now, thanks for listening, guys, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of Next Level Mamas, where we are out to win the level we are in and move into our own next level. For more information on coaching with me, please visit nextlevelmamas.com/create your life. See you next week.